Welcome back to Leaders, a podcast dedicated to exploring the best leaders this world has ever seen. On today's episode, we will cover current CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella. Nadella has been in the news more recently off of the IA wave and Microsoft's involvement via ChatGPT and its Bing search engine that has swept through a lot of the tech industry and broader economic system the last few months here. And that small example is one of many that you can study within Nadella's career at Microsoft that points at him being a very strategic leader when it comes to technologies and the ability to look forward and into the future and really make the investments needed to continue to excel path forward for Microsoft. And so Satya Nadella, here in the book that I studied for this one, was Hit Refresh, which was one written in 2017 and one in which I first read as part of when I was first kind of curious on the topic of leadership. I read 20 books in 6 months, and this was one that I decided to read and stuck out, but it is always great to reread those books, and really, in this case, with the focus on those leadership principles in Satya himself, as well as some more business context and more recent developments that really highlight his excellence in the CEO role. And so with that, the first section we'll go into is how did he become the CEO of Microsoft? And so he was born in Hyderabad, India in 1967. He received a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering in India in 1988. He then tells a story of how he moved to the U.S. to attend the University of Wisconsin, where he received a master's degree in computer science in 1990. In 1992, he then joined Microsoft as a member of the technical staff. He worked on the development of Windows NT and later held leadership positions in business and enterprises across Microsoft. In 2014, he was appointed CEO of Microsoft, and his path to CEO was not without its challenges. He faced some early criticism in his career for his lack of experience in the business world. However, he persevered and eventually earned the respect of his colleagues and superiors. He's known for his intelligence, humility, ability to connect with people from all walks of life. And under his leadership, Microsoft has really transformed itself from a traditional software company into a cloud-based tech leader of this day. And their cloud computing revenue has grown from about $1 billion in 2014 to $49.4 billion in 2021, which is probably more recent in 2023. That number has obviously gone up. Microsoft has become a leader in AI, machine learning, and other cutting-edge technologies. He's really credited with helping to make Microsoft a more innovative and customer-focused company. He's been praised for his commitment to diversity and inclusion and is a role model for many people. He's considered to be one of the most successful CEOs in the world. And so some of the other key milestones in his path, as mentioned, in 1992, he joins Microsoft, so he's been with the firm for over 30 years now. And he was named vice president of their small business service in 1999. 2000, he became corporate vice president of Microsoft Business Solutions. 2007, he was elevated to senior vice president of research and development for the company's online services division. And then right before he was appointed CEO of Microsoft, he served as president of Microsoft's server and tools business. And to get into his leadership style here, which we'll spend a majority of the time here. Really, there are three main qualities that stick out when you study Nadella, and those are empathy, empowerment, and innovation. And his style's been praised by many. He's been named one of the most powerful people in the world by Time. He's also been awarded the Padma Bhushan, India's third highest civilian honor. And a little bit more on those three qualities. So empathy to start. And from personal experience with Nadella, I think this is where this quality really stands out and is exemplified through his personal journey and his children and encountering some challenges there. He believes that it's essential for good leadership, and he says that leaders should be able to understand the needs and perspectives of their employees, and that allows them to make better decisions and build stronger relationships. He also talks about empowerment. So he believes in empowering employees, and he wants them to feel confident and capable of making their own decisions, giving them a sense of ownership and responsibility that can lead to increased productivity and innovation. And he also says his personal philosophy and his passion, developed over time and through exposure to many different experiences, is to connect new ideas with a growing sense of empathy for other people. Ideas excite me, empathy grounds and centers me. So he feels he has a higher calling to employ Microsoft in pursuit of their personal passions to empower others. And finally, innovation. He's committed, has been committed to innovation. He believes that technology can be used to solve some of the world's biggest problems, and he encourages employees to think big and come up with new ideas. And some of these leadership lessons and styles are formed before you're in a CEO seat, and not even in some business roles, but maybe personal hobbies and interest. And so that's where really cricket came into play for Satya Nadella, and he really had some early leadership lessons from there in terms of inspiring and giving confidence to employees as he saw that within the cricket team atmosphere there. And he also talks about vision and is really well known for embracing. Carol Dweck has a book on the growth mindset, and so he references that over about 24 times in the book. And as he puts it, successful people are learn-it-alls and not know-it-alls. He believes that a fixed mindset will limit your growth, while a growth mindset will propel you and your organization forward. And he wrote that when he became CEO in 2014, he realized that employees needed a clear, tangible, and inspiring vision. He was determined to communicate his vision and worldview clearly and regularly. The book and his email about Microsoft's focus on a cloud-based future reflect how effectively he communicates his vision. And so, as we alluded to, he's made some early bets on both AI and the cloud business, and that pivot that Microsoft underwent. Under Steve Ballmer, he was really kind of consumer-centric and tried to release some other offshoots of products that ended up, when Nadella came in, he really understood that may not be the best path or the most opportunity for Microsoft to capitalize on. And so he really was early on these and went all in on them, which paid off very well. And so Nadella also talks about the most understated part of leadership he feels is judgment and the ability to both exercise it as well as learn from it. And he says leaders need to take on the risk and become unconstrained. And so that's a unique position that maybe some senior leaders can be and are required to really take on risk to really unleash potential. And he describes his own kind of leadership style here as a sense of self and staying true to that, as well as that growth mindset, what makes you tick, what makes you happy, and the ability to understand others. And so as he forms this out, and as he's communicating in his book, as well as other company updates, a big thing that he hones in on is the culture he's building at Microsoft. And so when he was named the Microsoft's third CEO in February 2014, he told employees that renewing our company's culture would be my highest priority. I told them I was committed to ruthlessly removing barriers to innovation so we could get back to what we all joined the company to do, to make a difference in the world. And he understood that his primary job was to curate a culture so that 100,000 inspired minds, Microsoft's employees, can better shape the future. As I mentioned, the cricketing, and so he goes into actually 3 stories from his described all too brief cricketing past that spoke very directly to business and leadership principles I even use today as a CEO. And so the first principle is to compete vigorously and with passion in the face of uncertainty and intimidation. On reflection, a second principle is simply the importance of putting your team first ahead of your personal statistics and recognition. And also having a brilliant character who does not put team first can destroy the entire team. It says, my approach has never been to conduct business as usual. Instead, it's been to focus on culture and imagine what's possible. The culmination of these experiences, as well as the passions and talents to the company mission, create the kind of culture that he feels is the chief job as the CEO. And he is highlighting that by saying leadership is making choices and then rallying the team around those choices. And one of the bigger choices that he made was going all in on the cloud business. And he reflects on that move to the cloud business and what it taught him. So he says, the cloud business taught me a series of lessons I would carry with me for years to come. Perhaps the most important is this. A leader must see the external opportunities and the internal capability and culture and all of the connections among them and respond to them before they become obvious parts of the conventional wisdom. It's an art form, not a science, and a leader will not always get it right, but the batting average for how well a leader does this is going to define his or her longevity in business. It's an insight that would serve me well when an even bigger set of challenges was presented to me as CEO. So what is the unique sensibility that we as a company have? For Microsoft, that soul is about empowering people and not just individuals, but also the institutions they build. Enterprises like schools, hospitals, businesses, government agencies, and nonprofits. And so before we get into the next section about that soul of a company, I do think Steve Jobs comes to mind a little bit here in terms of the inspiration, the talk about kind of the art of business and really trying to shape that within a company. So with that, Satya also mentions Steve here and says that Steve Jobs understood what the soul of a company is. He once said that design is the fundamental soul of a man-made creation that ends up expressing itself in successive outer layers of the product or service. And so Satya then goes on and says, we needed a senior leadership team that would lean into each other's problems, promote dialogue, and be effective. We needed everyone to view the SLT as his or her first team, not just another meeting they attended. We need to be aligned on mission, strategy, and culture. And again, back to culture, he says, anything is possible for a company when its culture is about listening, learning, and harnessing individual capability. And to achieve that, he says there's 3 things. And And first, we need to obsess about our customers. Back to Jeff Bezos, customer obsession is at the foremost of his in the last episode, so some parallels there. Second, we are at our best when we actively seek diversity and inclusion. Finally, we are one company, one Microsoft, not a confederation of fiefdoms. Innovation and competition don't respect our silos, our org boundaries, so we have to learn to transcend those barriers. That statement for me also draws parallels to what Jack Welch created in terms within GE as this concept of being boundaryless and really trying to delayer and remove barriers for people. And so we do see more parallels there. In terms of from a leadership style as well, before we move on, I do think there are some parallels to, and you get the sense of just when you see them talk and their interaction and their not like lightheartedness, but they're also very serious about the business. But it's a unique combination, I think, of that empathetic, authentic, you can tell with Nadella. And I see that also within Jim Senegal is you get what you get. And the interactions and friendliness that they portray, I do see parallels there as well. And so Satya also does say, and quoted here, to what is a leader in the company. And so to be a leader in this company, your job is to find the rose petals in a field of shit. He says, perhaps not my best line of poetry, but I wanted these people to stop seeing all the things that are hard and start seeing things that are great and helping others see them too. And he does, push, and really to achieve this business success, he has to have conviction and confidence in things. And so more recently read an article in regards to the OpenAI, and he frankly kind of grew frustrated in that a company like OpenAI, of which he had the fortune of kind of early investing in, but a company of 250 people or so was able to really scale and figure out the first prominent kind of AI solution of this wave. And he was really questioning his Microsoft research department, which, has thousands of people, to say they're leaner, they're much less resources and people dedicated to this. Why do we even have a Microsoft research team if it's really not going to be ahead of some of these things? So he really has that some of those principles that are trying to push it, because he knows the importance of staying ahead of things and trying to productize some of this things, especially as they come much more rapid, as we see here in AI. And to wrap up this leadership style section, he really encapsulates it into 3 leadership principles that he feels that are 3 expectations of people that he is leading and that he wants to see. And so let's share those. So the first is to bring clarity to those you work with. This is one of the foundational things leaders do every day, every minute. In order to bring clarity, you've got to synthesize the complex. Leaders take internal and external noise and synthesize a message from it, recognizing the true signal within a lot of noise. Second, leaders generate energy, not only on their own teams, but across the company. It's insufficient to focus exclusively on your own unit. Leaders need to inspire optimism, creativity, shared commitment, and growth through times good and bad. They create an environment where everyone can do his or her best work, and they build organizations and teams that are stronger tomorrow than today. Third and finally, they find a way to deliver success, to make things happen. This means driving innovations that people love and are inspired to work on, finding balance between long-term success and short-term wins. And so that wraps up the leadership style section for Satya Nadella. We will now move on to the failures section. While he's had great success within Microsoft and through a lot of great strategic acquisitions, LinkedIn, Minecraft, GitHub, a lot of great ones over the years. At the same point, he did pivot the entire Microsoft business out of consumer markets effectively and into enterprise. And so he admits repeatedly abandoning customers was a mistake. So the omnipresence of a company like Apple that Steve Jobs built was very consumer centric, and one in which you see everyone mostly walking around with AirPods, an iPhone, a MacBook, a bunch of different Apple products that they have. From a Microsoft standpoint, that is not as prevalent. Maybe from a business sense, and everyone's using Office and ChatGPT now and things like that. But outside of that, from a consumer standpoint, it's not as ubiquitous, and so it could be deemed as a failure. But the pivot into, I guess, the cloud and AI infrastructure, I think, is also successful. So some I guess criticism there, and along the way with failures too is going to be some products that are inevitably launched and then don't really go anywhere. And so the Windows Phone, he was a strong supporter of the Windows Phone, but the platform ultimately failed to gain traction against that iPhone and Android. The Surface RT was a tablet computer that ran on Windows RT, a version of Windows that was designed for ARM processors. And the Surface RT was not a commercial success, and it was discontinued in 2016. The Xbox One, which is the Microsoft's latest generation gaming console, it was met with mixed reviews. It was criticized for its high price, lack of backwards capability with Xbox 360 games, and its always-on DRM policy. So a few kind of like product failures within there, as well as, what if they didn't pivot out of the consumer markets business and really dedicate some resources to that? Could they become, arguably a bigger company than they are right now? Who knows? So just highlighting there. Going into our final section here of mentors and heroes. So one mentor that Satya mentions is the co-founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates. And so he said that Gates was his first mentor and that he learned a great deal from him about business, technology, and leadership. Second CEO of Microsoft was Steve Ballmer. That became right before Satya, and so he said he worked with him for many years, and he said that Ballmer taught him the importance of focus, execution, and accountability. Jeff Rakes was the CEO of Microsoft's business division when he was the EVP of that division, and he said that Rakes taught him the importance of customer focus and innovation. Rick Rashid was the former executive vice president of Microsoft Research. Nadella said that Rashid taught him the importance of thinking big and taking risks. And then finally, Padmasree Warrior. Warrior was the former executive vice president of Microsoft's Cloud and Enterprise Group. He said that Warrior taught him the importance of building a culture of innovation and collaboration. So, amongst a lot of those Microsoft senior leadership executives, I think is where he benefits from having a long tenured career at Microsoft. He's able to see the evolution of the company, as well as work with a lot of those people that he's able to take pieces from in order to develop his vision for how he sees that fitting into the broader culture and reinvention of that culture that he had mentioned within his vision, and implementing it through a growth mindset and through his leadership style. He's, obviously learned a great deal from his colleagues at Microsoft as well as from his family and friends. He's a lifetime learner, always looking for new ways to improve himself and his leadership skills. In terms of his heroes, it gets kind of a more personal here with his family. So he does mention his father, and he says that his father was his first hero. First taught him the importance of hard work, discipline, and perseverance. Also, his mother was his second hero, and then he taught him the importance of compassion, empathy, and kindness. He does consider his wife his hero as well, and mentions that she is his rock and his source of strength. His children, too, are his heroes, and that they're his inspiration and his reason for living. Back to the Microsoft coworkers and colleagues, he also says that they're his teammates and his second family. He was also inspired by many people. Heroes, can be different forms of people, both past and present. So he does mention Gandhi as being someone who's inspired by the commitment to nonviolence and social justice. Similarly, MLK Jr., he was inspired by his commitment to civil rights and equality. Nelson Mandela, inspired by his commitment to democracy and freedom. Mother Teresa, he inspired by her commitment to helping the poor and the sick. And then Steve Jobs, he also mentions as one of his heroes in terms of his vision, creativity, and innovation. And really, Nadella is a grateful and humble leader. He's always willing to give credit to those who have inspired him along the way. And before we wrap up here, maybe a section that I'll try to add to episodes moving forward, if it makes sense to, and I can find the information for. But really, I feel that to get a better understanding of a lot of these leadership styles and the results and what a lot of these leaders talk about, whether it be through interviews, books, and podcasts, are always oftentimes going to be ideas that they're getting from other places and or mostly probably from books. And notice a lot of these leaders will be lifelong learners as well as avid readers. And so what always intrigues me being that type as well is what books have these people read and or are reading right now that have inspired them or that they've gained kind of inspiration or tidbits from that have informed their leadership style as well as how they operate as a CEO of a company. And so on that theme, Satya does mention a few books and some commentary with each as to how it influenced him. And so I'm going to provide those here as well as maybe some links within the notes of this podcast. But first is Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. And so Satya says he gave it to all senior execs as required reading, namely for the empathy and emotional quotient EQ for better communication pieces of the novel. Another one is Philosopher of the Heart, The Restless Life of Soren Kierkegaard. And so he describes that as a father of existentialism, the second coming almost of Socrates, and inspired a lot of his current thinking on many topics. Utopia or Oblivion, Prospects of Humanity, he says, is a well argued about the collective future and how design science helps us do more with less. A few more here are The Alignment Problem, Machine Learning and Human Values, The Difference by Scott Page, which he says provides a lot of tools for the best outcomes for all. And finally, The Power of Creative Destruction. And that's an interesting title, just to kind of cap things off here of I feel like what Microsoft will be involved in here in the next few years in the AI wave and what will come of that and how they will evolve with that ever-growing industry. And I feel like Nadella is a great CEO that I've admired from afar. And as you read more and more and listen to a lot of his interviews, I do really admire his kind of leadership style, philosophy, and principles, of which he's gone about exceeding, I feel like, expectations. He was kind of just given Ballmer's CEO performance. It was a tough task to come in and kind of not save Microsoft, but really set them up to succeed in the ever evolving and stay relevant kind of era of technology that a legacy player like Microsoft is always going to be challenged with. How do you continually grow? How do you really be strategic about the acquisitions that you're making? And how do you help lead that vision and execute it from a cloud perspective, from an AI perspective now, through an ever-growing kind of evolvement of the core kind of software products and office products and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how much, how long does he stay in the CEO position for Microsoft, and where the company goes from here. He's a great leader and should be studied more. And so with that, we're going to wrap it up here for episode 8 on current CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella. And we'll hopefully be back for more here, episode 9, coming soon. Thanks.